Hello and welcome to today's art class. Feel free to pause this video along the way to keep up with all of the steps. Welcome to an introduction of hand building with clay. We're going to be using some carving tools like these tools here, some tools that you might even find in your kitchen, such as kitchen skewers. We also have some tools such as a sponge, this very thin cutting and smoothing tool. We also have a rolling pin, which is just a wooden rolling pin. We also have a piece of cloth, a wire cutter, and we also have a big lump of clay that we're going to be using today, a wooden clay bat and a tub of water. The piece of cloth that I love to use is just a scrap piece of cotton. Using a sheet of cotton is excellent because it does not stick to your clay like the clay bat. Before you begin any clay projects, remember to remove your jewellery. Alright, so let's start cutting the clay. I have a large block of hand building earthenware clay, which is perfect to use when you are creating your hand built clay projects. I'm going to open up my bag of clay and then use this wire cutter to cut a large slab. As soon as your clay is exposed to air, it will start to dry out, so remember to seal your bag back up as soon as you can to make sure that your large piece of clay does not dry out. To start with, I'm going to lay out my piece of cotton on top of my wooden clay bat. Now with a piece of clay, I'm going to be creating a pinch pot. You will notice that when you first start handling your clay, it'll be very soft and malleable. I'm going to start by rolling a ball shape. As you start to roll your ball, you might want to hit it down onto the table to remove any air bubbles that might be inside your clay. You can choose to either roll your ball in between your hands, or you can also roll it on the table. Once you have a circular shape that you're very happy with, you can then push your thumb in the center. Don't push it all the way through, but with your other fingers you then start a pinching motion all around the edge of the bowl. Keep pinching all the way around until you have a pot-like shape. You can push your bowl down onto the bench to create a flat surface at the bottom of your pinch pot. Keep pinching and smoothing your bowl all the way around until you have created your perfect pinch pot. If the clay does start to dry out as you are working with it, you can add 1 drop of water to your clay to help make it a little bit more wet. Congratulations, you've now made a pinch pot. The next thing we are going to create is a coil. So for a coil, I'm just going to use a smaller piece of clay, and in between my hands I'm going to roll the clay into a sausage-like shape. I'm going to keep rolling until I end up with a long sausage-shaped coil. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to roll out onto the fabric, so when you're creating a coil, you may want to remove the fabric and just roll the clay onto your clay bat. Well done, you have now created a coil. You can use a coil by adding it to other clay creations, such as wrapping it around the edge of a pinch pot. Next we are creating a slab. What you'll need to do is flatten out your piece of clay. If you would like to press it down onto your table, that can help to remove any air bubbles. You can also use a rolling pin to create a slab. The most important thing to remember is to keep turning your clay over so that it does not get stuck to the surface underneath. A rolling pin is the easiest way to create a slab because it gives you an even thickness for your clay. Congratulations, you've now made a slab of clay. A slab is so useful when you're using clay because you can then cut out whatever shape you would like to for your clay creations. To create a rectangle, you can either cut it with a pointy tool such as a skewer, or you can use a thin cutting tool like this one here to create straight edges to make that rectangle shape. Remember to save any extra offcuts of clay. We can always roll the clay back together and use it again. If the clay dries out, all you need to do is add a drop of water, blend it all together, and then the clay will become ready to use for your next project. Excellent work! You now know how to make those 3 amazing and important pieces of clay: a slab, a coil, and a pinch pot. You will use these 3 techniques to create so many of your different clay creations. Now let's learn about some of those amazing clay tools. To start with, I'm going to roll out a slab so I can show you what these tools can do. First, let's start with this sharp pointy tool. You can use this to etch into the clay and carve thin lines. The pointy end of a skewer also does the exact same thing. The thicker end of the skewer will carve thicker lines into the clay. This wooden tool here has a few different uses. The rounded edge can smooth the clay and the pointy edge can cut the clay. You can use that straight edge to drag across the clay, and you can also use this pointy edge to smoothen the edge of your clay creation. This plastic serrated tool is excellent to create a dotted effect when you slowly roll it across your clay. This is one of my favorite tools. The other end has a rounded edge and is excellent for carving and smoothing the edges of clay. This other plastic tool I have is great for blending clay and smoothing areas together. As you use these tools, you'll begin to realize the tools that you find work the best and the techniques that you can create with your tools. Remember, you also have the most amazing tool right on hand, and that is your fingers. These carving tools are excellent for carving out large chunks of clay from your project. You may want to carve out a design or carve out the inside of your clay if your creation is too thick. This pointy edge is perfect for carving out smaller details. You can bend and curve your tool to create wavy lines, and if you push this carving tool all the way through, it will carve so much of the clay that you'll be able to see through the other side. These clay sponges are excellent when dipped in water. You can smoothen your clay to remove any excess lines or cracks. This thin metal tool does the same thing by smoothing wide parts of your clay. There are so many different tools that can be used in lots of different ways. Have fun experimenting in the ways that you can use all of these tools. Now I'm going to show you a technique called slip and score. We use this when we want to attach 2 pieces of clay together. If you just push the clay together, it will not stick. When it goes in the kiln, the pieces will fall apart. We need to use a special technique called slip and score. So first, we need to score the clay. That means to roughen up the clay. I like to use a hashtag technique. So with a skewer or a pointy tool, you will need to score lines into your clay. You will need to make sure that you score both sides of the clay. So first I'm going to score the base area where I know the other piece is going to fit. We don't want to go all the way through to the other side, just lightly score the surface of the clay in multiple directions. Now we can score the other piece. Next we need to add some slip. So slip is a very watered down version of clay. An easier way to do this is to add some droplets of water to your clay and smoothen it around. Really wet and watery clay is very sticky, so it helps to join our two pieces of clay together. Press your two pieces together and twist them until it is completely sealed. To create an even stronger join, you can blend the two pieces of clay together with a tool. By dragging the clay from one piece to the other, it helps to create a really strong bond between your two pieces of clay. Fantastic! Your clay is now perfectly joined together. When finishing off your project, it is really important for you to smoothen the clay. There is a few ways to smoothen the clay, but my favourite is to use a dragging or patting motion across the clay with my finger. This helps to smoothen out any cracks in the clay. It's now time for us to clean up. Make sure to remove any excess clay from the tools. Once you have removed the large pieces of clay, you can then go ahead and rinse your tools in water. Please remember that you will need to wash your hands and any tools in buckets of water, and then you can put that water on the garden. If you put clay down the sink, it actually blocks up the pipes. So it's really important to remember to never put clay down the sink. If you are using a piece of fabric, dust off any excess pieces of clay, fold it up, and it will be ready to go for next time. Scrap pieces of clay can always be reused, so squish them in a pile, collect all the loose pieces and put it in an airtight container ready for next time. Have the best time being super creative with clay. Thanks for watching, see you next time.